Sir, we are live now. Over to
Okay,
you
thank
for the
you.
second,
Thank
please.
you very much. Good afternoon, friends. I am R.K. Khurana. I am fellow member of the Institute of Cost Accountants of India, also fellow member of the Institute of Company Secretaries of India. I have done, Madam, I'm getting some disturbance from there. Could you please mute yourself? I have done my Executive Masters in International Business and Bachelor in Law. So first of all, I thank the ICMAI register, CMI for giving me an opportunity to be with you and share my views on appeals and revisions under the GST law. I'm also thankful to all of you for being with us, and I hope you are aware of the rule of the game. While I will be making a unilateral or one-sided presentation, and hope that whatever I say will be clear to you. However, in case you have any difficulty in understanding, or you have a different view, or you have some clarification, you have two options. One is you can unmute yourself and ask the question during the course of the presentation itself. Or alternatively, and the better option is that during the course of my presentation, I will have a brief halt where I will engage with a communication with you. So coming to the subject, these days, you know that during the last many years, 1917, 18, 2017, 18, 18, 19, 19, 20, many of the adjudication orders have been issued. And in most cases, in many cases, the appeals have also been filed, but the taxpayers are still running around how to file an appeal, whether what will the consequences if I do not file an appeal, how much deposit I have to make if the appeal has to be filed, what form should I file in, should I file the appeal online or should I file make a physical uh, filing of the appeal? What are the issues involved in this? And who are the authority who can hear the appeal? The first level appellate authority, the second level appellate authority, High Court, Supreme Court. Whether I should file an appeal or go for a writ jurisdiction, exercise a writ jurisdiction. So these are some of the issues which keep troubling the business person as to how do we go about in getting the relief. So I propose to take up with you the introduction to appeal. What is an appeal? What are its consequences? What are its remedy? Is the appeal a legal right or a constitutional right? Is it, can I demand filing of an appeal as a matter of sort of a fundamental or a constitutional right? Then who is the first level appellate authority? So how do I file an appeal with the first level appellate authority? And can department have a shortcut to the appealing? Department can also go in for an appeal, but they also have a kind of a shortcut and more forceful remedy by way of a power of revisional authority. Through the revisional mechanism also, they can achieve the same thing or even something better by seeking the intervention of the revisionary authority. Then second level appeals to the appellate tribunal, even though the appellate tribunals have not yet started functioning, but many the national bench or the central bench has already been constituted, and very shortly we are going to have this appellate tribunal. And what will be the mechanism, how the appeal will be filed, who will be the person authorized to appear before these authorities, then what will be the consequences in case through the appellate tribunal if the decision is in the favor of the taxpayer, so taxpayer will be happy. But still, in despite the going to the second level appeal of the appellate tribunal, in case the decision is not in favor of the taxpayer, what other remedies he shall have? Can he go to High Court or the Supreme Court? So those kind of things we will be studying. And when whenever I have to file an appeal, whether with the first level appellate authority or the second level appellate authority, what are the amount of pre-deposits that I have to make for the purpose of filing of an appeal? And in case I win, what will be the consequences of that pre-deposit? Will I get back? And if I get back with or without interest, or how much interest I shall get back, so that we will be covering. And in case I am a born litigant or if I'm a perennial litigant, despite the fact that issue has been decided against me in the appellate tribunal, if I file an appeal with the, say, High Court or a Supreme Court, do I get any relief or deferment in the payment of taxes? So that we will be studying. And are there certain decisions or an orders by the officer which cannot be appealed against? So we will study this through the law and rules. So friend, let me start with the introduction of the appeal. The word appeal is not defined under GST laws, but dictionary meaning of the word is a resort to a higher court to review the decision or an order of a lower court. Say I file an appeal with the, say, a district court, and some order has been passed against me in the district court. I'm not happy. I'm aggrieved. I feel that I'm aggrieved, and I also feel my advocate has advised me that district court has not taken correct cognizance of the issues involved in the case, and by mistake, by wrong application of law, he has passed an order against me. So the higher court to the district court will be, say, a high court. So I go to the high court and file an appeal against the orders of the district court. So an appeal is a resort to the higher court to review the decision of a order of the lower court, or it is also resort to a court to review the order or a decision of an administrative agency. So in the case of the GST law, the adjudicating officers are the administrative agencies. They are quasi-judicial authorities who have been given power to power to, first of all, call for information, power to issue show cause notice, call for my explanation, and after I have submitted my reply, they have the quasi judicial authority to pass a judgment or an order against me. And once such order is passed by the adjudicating officer, I have an option to go to the first level appellate authority, that is the that is the commissioner appeal or joint commissioner appeals. So all legal system normally provide for an appeal, particularly the tax system, where the exigency of the difference of opinion between the department and the taxpayer is quite substantial. So most of the tax legislation invariably provide for the appeal mechanism. When and why does the appeal arise? An appeal arise when there is a dispute. Say I have a point of view that my whatever I am supplying, say I am dealer in an agricultural product, and I feel this particular product is, to my mind, is not taxable. But the tax authority feel that while most of the agricultural products are not taxable, but some items like tea, coffee in certain shape, they are taxable, and GST is leviable on them. Now there is a dispute or a difference of opinion on this argument, and this dispute or an argument or a disagreement, especially between the department and official, may lead to litigation and may lead to taking resort to the appellate mechanism which is available under the GST law. The GST law is based on determination of the tax liability on self-assessment basis. Mark the word self-assessment basis. What is the self-assessment basis? I hope you are all aware that section 59 of the GST law provides for that every taxable person shall self-assess the tax payable by him and file a return under section 50 under section 39. That section 59 is a very short, very crisp, very brief, very easy to understand section, but very difficult to implement because it imposes the onus of paying the correct tax not on the department to call for the tax amount, but on the taxpayer himself. So a registered person has to self-assess his tax liability. How does he self-assess it? So though saying that self-assessment is easy and it is a good thing, but it is a very difficult and very comprehensive thing. Why? Because in the process of self-assessment, the every taxpayer should be thoroughly familiar with the application of the GST law. Say, for example, in the case of a self-assessment, it is the obligation of the taxpayer to determine whether whatever he is supplying, is it a taxable supply, whether it is at all a supply under section 7, read with Schedule 1, which calls for supplies even without consideration. Schedule 2, which makes a distinction between between supply of goods and supply of services. Since the rate in case of supply of goods and supply of services vary, so one has to be clear about and very well familiar about the Schedule 2. Then one should also be familiar with Schedule 3 of the GST law, which provides for that certain supplies or certain transactions are neither the supply of goods nor the supply of services. So once we are familiar that a particular activity or a transaction that I am doing is or is not a supply of goods or supply of services, then he has to study what kind of a liability I am under in order to pay the tax. Whether the supply made by me is a composite supply or it is a mixed supply. So section 8 will be required to be known. Then under section 9, whether the said supply involves levy and collection of tax or does not involve levy or collection of tax. Friend, you might be familiar that one has to be very, very intricate. For example, petroleum products like petrol, diesel, crude oil, they are not subject to CNG, they are not subject to levy of tax, but LPG is subject to levy of a tax. So one has to be very particular that the tax on what item tax is payable, which comes under levy and collection of tax, on what item tax is not payable. Section 9 also provides for in certain respect, in most respect, tax is payable on a forward charge basis. That is, when the person who makes a supply of goods or services is also liable to charge tax on it. And after claiming input tax credit to the extent admissible, he is liable to deposit the tax with with government authorities. But there is also mechanism for levy of a tax on reverse charge basis, where the recipient of the goods or services is required to pay tax. So one has to be very clear whether I am liable to pay tax on this on a forward charge basis or I am liable to pay tax on a reverse charge basis. Likewise, whether the taxable person fulfills his obligation towards as a composite dealer. If I am a small business person and my taxable aggregate turnover is within the limit of the where I could be subject to certain simpler tax mechanism of composite supply, then what are my obligations as a composite supplier? What are the limitations of my being a composite supplier and a normal supplier? So I should be aware whether the supply is exempt under section 11. A short while ago I made a example of a agriculturist making some supply, most of which are not taxable and most of which are exempt under the GST law. But there are intricate items where despite there being agricultural products on which GST is leviable. So I have to be familiar whether the supply I am making is a exempt supply or is it a taxable supply. Like that, time of supply. So I should be familiar with at what point of time, what is the time of supply rules in respect of goods, what is the time of supply rules in case of a services, because that will determine the point of time when I'm liable to pay tax. And if in case there is a delay or a default in my obligation to pay tax as per the time of supply rules, so then again there can be a problem whether it is a intrastate supply or interstate supply. If it is a intrastate supply, then I should be charging CGST and SGST. And if it is a interstate supply, then I should be charging IGST and accordingly depositing it with the department. And in case I make a mistake, the GST law makes a very complicated kind of a solution. It says that wherever you have made a mistake in having paid IGST, where you are liable to pay CGST or SGST. You first pay the CGST and SGST and later on claim a refund for the IGST which has been wrongly paid. So that itself increases a lot of my paperwork, lot of my procedure online following and following it with the department. Then what is the value of supply on which I should be paying tax? At what rate the tax is payable? So I should be familiar with the rate schedule issued by the department in June 2017 itself, and many times these rates have been varied by way of a modification notification. Then value of supply rules, I should be fully familiar. Then my whether I have fulfilled all the requirements of claiming input tax credit, whether I fulfill the requirement of section 16, whether I'm having invoice with me, whether I received the supply of goods or services, whether that supplier has paid tax in relation to which I am a recipient of those things I should be there. Then there is a apportionment on allocation of input tax credit available. So section 17 I should be familiar with. Then there is a chapter relating to section 17.5 which blocks availability of input tax credit in relation to some of the supply. Then availability of ITC, I have already said obligation to file returns. If I do not file return, I do not get any input tax credit at all. Then place of supply, I have already mentioned that in case it is an interstate supply, so I have to charge GST, IGST will go to the state where there is a place of supply. Like liability in the case of transfer of ongoing business, if I do, or if I transfer any assets, the situation may be different because in case I make a supply of a ongoing business along with liabilities, then there is no liability, but there is a good lot of procedure relating to that. But in case I transfer any asset before its expiry of its life, or even after expiry of this, I am liable to pay tax on this. So friends, the obligations relating to movement of goods, obligation to create e-way bills. So these are all meticulous. In fact, I try to recapitulate all the circumstances about which every taxable person should be familiar with and he should comply with in order to have smooth dealing through the tax laws and in order not to have any problem. Assuming that I have filed my returns properly, I have correctly calculated my tax, then how does the department know that I do not have any liability? How does the department know that my obligations under the GST laws have been fully complied with? There is a mechanism for scrutiny of returns, section 61. Then they can also do best judgment assessments in respect of non-filers, unregistered person. They can do summary assessment. They can inspect, search, seizure of my premises, or also of the movement of goods. And through these process, in case they come across there are certain shortcomings or there has been short deposit of tax or excess availment of ITC, they can give me a show cause notice, seek for my reply, and based on the allegation made in the show cause notice and my replies, taxable person's reply submitted, they can adjudicate upon. That means the person, the adjudicating officer has been empowered to pass a judgment on an order, creating demand, interest, fee, penalty against the taxable person in case they find that such a taxable person has been in default. And once I receive a SCN, so it becomes my obligation to draft a correct reply to the show cause notice. And despite submitting a correct reply to the show cause notice, and there can be serious or a genuine difference of opinion between the adjudicating authority, which is a proper officer, and the taxpayer. In such cases, the first of all order will be adjudication order will be issued by the adjudicating authority, and any dispute or difference on these orders by the taxable person may lead to dispute in filing of the appeal. Assuming that some order has been passed against me. What are the remedies do I have against that order? Whether the right to appeal is a statutory right or a legal right. Right to appeal, friends, is a statutory right. Means in the context of the GST law, right to appeal is given in in the act itself, and it can be exercised in a manner in which it has been provided for in section 107 to 100 and I think 17 of the CGST Act, and it has to be exercised according to that. And since the right to appeal under the GST law is in the act itself, so once it is incorporated in the statute, the right to appeal becomes a vested right, but it is still not a constitutional right. Means, in the other sense, if the right to appeal is not specifically provided in the particular enactment in which I am entangled or in which I am dealing with, I have no remedy like that of a fundamental right. So in the case of CIT versus Ashoka Engineering Company in 1992, this was Supreme Court, it was held that right to appeal has to be spelt from the words of the statute, if any, providing for an appeal. So in case the right to appeal is not given in the statute I am dealing with, then I have nothing called sort of a fundamental right that I can always go in for an appeal. But it is well settled that once there is a right, once there is a provision in a particular enactment, a text, a particular text enactment that I am dealing with, and there is a provision conferring the right to appeal, it should be read in a reasonable, practical, and liberal manner. So once the right is prescribed, written in the enactment itself, then it can be exercised in fairness. Then it becomes a my legal right. So, friends, do I exercise the appellate mechanism which is provided under the enactment itself, or should I file a writ with the Supreme Court or with the High Court? There are two very effective remedies, and it is the strategy or it is the wise advice of an advocate that which one should I file, or what is the difference between appeal and a writ. Right to appeal is provided in the legislation itself, but right to writ is not provided in the legislation itself. It is provided in the Constitution of India. Generally, writ provides for a very extraordinary remedy, which I will try to take up with you in the next slide. And in India, we have two popular kinds of writ. Writ under Article 226, which can be filed by the jurisdictional high court of the state in which the cause of action has arisen, and writ under Article 32, but they can be exercised only in a very, very extraordinary kind of circumstances. I will take up in the next slide. So writ is an extraordinary remedy, normally not available where alternate or a legal remedy is available in a particular enactment itself. But the availability of an alternative remedy is not always a bar on filing of a writ. Last many years, ever since the GST law has come into being, we know that provisions relating to appellate tribunals has been part of the GST law, but tribunals have not come into existence. So the people have been following two kinds of strategies. One is they have been depositing the making the pre-deposit with the department and asking for stay on the recovery of the remaining amount. But many people have not followed this mechanism. They have also gone for a writ jurisdiction of the court, telling the court that, my lord, this particular tribunal, the appellate tribunal, have not come into existence, and my business is suffering a irreparable loss. Give me a relief. So what are the circumstances on which where the writ provide an effective remedy? Circumstances where it provides a effective remedy are whenever there is a breach of a fundamental right. Wherever the appellant or writ applicant feels that his fundamental right has been violated, so he can approach the High Court or the Supreme Court asking for a writ remedy. Or a violation of a principles of natural justice, where some order has been passed without giving an opportunity of being heard, or where there is excessive excess exercise of a jurisdiction. The officer concerned did not have a jurisdiction to pass a recovery order against me, but he has done so, and he has done exercise in excessive jurisdiction of his power. Or where there is a challenge to the legality of the statute itself, virus of the statute, say some of the delegated legislation, this could come in a two ways. Some law might have been passed by the parliament itself, which is prima facie in violation of the constitutional provisions. So there, the virus of the statute has gone beyond the provisions of the constitution. Or there can be a situation where some power has been delegated to rule making authority, the government or CBIC, and the government or the CBIC has exercised excessive jurisdiction of that power. Then it was delegated by the parliament. Then also the very passing of that rule or passing of the law may itself may be questioned, and the courts, particularly High Court and the Supreme Court, have a power to strike down such kind of a excessive delegated legislation. Who can file an appeal under the GST law? Under the GST law, any person who is aggrieved by the order of an adjudicating officer, adjudicating authority, can file an appeal. Where the chapter starts with the section 107 onwards. Then who is an aggrieved person? Aggrieved person means any person whose pecuniary or financial interest is directly affected by the adjudication of one whose right or property may be established or is divested thereby. That means who has been deprived of his property, who has been imposed some fine or a penalty, who has been imposed some extra tax liability, or whose input ITC has been denied, or a person whose refund has been denied, so his pecuniary interests are adversely affected. So such kind of a person can go to an appeal, and appeal can be filed against the order or judgment of a adjudicating authority. Adjudicating authority is defined in clause 4 of section 2, which means any authority which is appointed or authorized to pass any order or a decision under this act, but does not include Central Board of Indirect Taxes, Revisionary Authority, Authority for Advance Ruling, Appellate Authority for Advance Ruling, Appellate Tribunal, Anti-Profiting Authority, National Anti-Profiting Authority. So these are all covered. You are not an adjudicating authority. Now, in case some demand has been passed against me, some adverse adjudicating order has been passed against me, what are the remedies available to me under the GST law? First and the foremost and the most effective remedy available is, and very elaborate remedy available is, the appeal. Then in case the department feel that some of its officers have exercised his judgment, which is not legally not correct, or they feel they suspect some foul play in the order or a judgment passed by any of their officer, then commissioner has been given a power to call for the documents of that particular proceeding and see whether they have been power by the subordinate officer has been exercised correctly. If not, then he can give a notice in form RVN1 to the affected person, call for his explanation, and pass a revisionary order. Then there is also a remedy where rectification, where there is an error apparent on record, either the officer himself who has passed an order, or at the after intervention by the taxable person, a rectification of that order can also be passed. So we will take up one by one at a fair detail. First of all, hierarchy of appeal. So I was telling you that hierarchy of appeal is given between sections 104 to 118 and I think 117. Let me see. 118, yes, 118 of the CGST. First level appellate authority is simply called appellate authority, section 107. Then appellate tribunal, 109 to 116, High Court, 117, and Supreme Court, 118. One by one, we will take up. Appeal under the GST law. First, section 107, it says appeal can be filed either by the aggrieved person, that whose pecuniary interest under the GST law have been adversely affected, or appeal can also be filed by on the directions of the commissioner of appeal, and such direction can be given to any person or an officer who is a subordinate to him. First, it says section 107(1) says, read with rule 108, any person aggrieved by any decision or an order of an adjudicating authority may appeal to the prescribed appellate authority. To the prescribed appellate authority. And section 107(2) says, gives a power to the commissioner to direct any officer's body in case any commissioner feel that any of their officers have now passed an order which is not legally correct. The commissioner has been given a power to call for the file containing the proceedings of the case and find out, and in case he is of the view that such and such officer has not exercised his power correctly or pass a order which is not legally correct, he may give direction to any officer subordinate to him, directing him to file an appeal with the appellate authority. And once such person, and whenever such order is passed, the commissioner can also guide him that what aspect of the law he has to keep in mind. And whenever such direction is given to the officer, that officer becomes an appellate authority. And so, who shall be the appellate authority? Under section 107, read with rule 109A. It says appellate authority shall be the government by way of a notification may appoint a certain officer to be appellate authority, and rule 109A says that appellate authority shall be commissioner appeals. Appeals shall be heard by an officer of the not below the level of a commissioner appeal of those orders where such decision or order is passed by the additional or a joint commissioner. And in other cases where such orders have been passed by deputy commissioner, assistant commissioner, or superintendent, in such cases, the appellate authority shall be any officer not below the rank of a joint commissioner. That means two levels of appellate authorities have been passed. So there were some order where the primary adjudication is done by an additional or a joint commissioner. In such cases, the appellate authority shall be commissioner appeals, and in all other cases where the primary adjudication has been done by the deputy commissioner, assistant commissioner, or superintendent, an officer not below the rank of a joint commissioner shall be the appellate authority. What is the time limit for filing of an appeal under section 107, read with section 108? The appeal has to be filed within a period of 3 months from the date of the receipt of the order of the adjudicating authority, which is proposed to be appealed against. And whenever such direction is issued by the commissioner to his subordinate to file an appeal, in such cases, such appeal can be filed within 6 months from the date of receipt of the order of the adjudicating authority. And in case there is a delay in filing of an appeal, the appellate authority on sufficient cause being shown for the delay has got a power to condone a delay for a period not exceeding 1 month. Only up to 1 month he can condone the delay. Assuming that in the case of an aggrieved person, he received an order 6 months ago and he could not file within a period of 3 months initially, and his time for filing appeal during the condoned period or extended period has also lapsed. What should he do? Does he get any remedy? While the law is very clear that the power for condonation of delay to the appellate authority has been vested only for a period of 1 month. That means initial period appeal has to be filed within an initial period of 3 months, and on a sufficient cause being shown, so the aggrieved person should file a separate application called condonation of delay application, where the extension of time of 3 months can be given. Oh, sorry, 1 month can be given. That means 3 plus 1 month. And in case appeal by the departmental official, the first phase of time available is 6 months, and in both the cases, he also gets a condonation of delay for a period not exceeding 1 month. In case the particular taxable person or a department has not been able to file an appeal, then what has happened? During the last during the years 2017, 18, 18, 19, it is more than 4 months since the orders have been passed, and many people have not been able to go in for appeal within a prescribed period. And they have gone to high courts, and high courts have reacted differently in different cases, and view as on today is rather fluid. I would like to take up with you some of the cases where the high courts have given relief. They have uh, directed the appellate authorities to still consider their appeal on the ground of substantial justice, and because they felt that the filing of an appeal within the prescribed period of 3 plus 1 month is a procedural law, so it involves technicality. So the courts have felt that those appeals should be allowed to be filed. In one such case, the Calcutta High Court, in the case of Arvind Gupta versus Assistant Commissioner of Revenue, State Taxing, the Calcutta High Court said that appellate authority has an inherent power to condone the delay. While the literal reading of the law does not mention that there is a power given beyond condoning the delay of a 1 month, but the court felt that it is there. Court found that the appellate authority's refusal to condone the delay for more than 4 months is flawed. So therefore, the Calcutta High Court directed a reconsideration of the appeal on its merit, thereby highlighting judiciary's inclination to prioritize substantial justice over procedural technicalities. According to a court point of view, the substantial justice is that the person who is entitled to relief, entitled to appeal under the law, should be allowed to file an appeal rather than just foregoing the appeal on the ground whether such appeal is filed within 3 plus 1, that is 4 months or not. Like that, in the case of a Kajal Datta case, it was felt that the issue brought before the High Court, Honorable High Court, was because of the illness of the applicant, the appeal was filed late and it was supported by the doctor's certificate. So, court condoned the delay and repeating that genuine medical emergency constitute a sufficient cause and directed the appellate authority to even now consider the appeal. Like that, in the Andhra Pradesh High Court, Sheikh Abdul Aziz versus State of Andhra Pradesh, the Andhra Pradesh High Court considered that while the appellate authority cannot condone delay beyond the statutory period permissible under Section 107 of the Andhra Pradesh GST Act, exceptional possibilities warrant judicial intervention. So in case some emergency has struck or in some exceptional circumstances are there, then judiciary, that means High Court, can give a relief. And to condone the delay, the court practiced this writ jurisdiction, emphasizing that, again, same thing, procedural rule must not overshadow the right to fair hearing. Pardon? Okay. Madras High Court, in the case of Satya Furniture versus Assistant Commissioner, court condoned 1 week delay caused by the mistake of the accountant. While the mistake of accountant could be very, very silly kind of a mistake, but still court felt that 1 week delay is not a hell is going to fall. So they emphasized it, SSC must not suffer because of the error by their representative, and they gave a relief. Now let me also tell you, in some cases where court has not denied relief, they have denied condonation of delay. Kerala High Court, in a similar facts of the cases, I have given the linkage of the case on the ground of Section 100, has said that when the Act has inbuilt mechanism and which means it has impliedly excluded the applicability of the provisions of the Limitation Act. So the Kerala High Court did not give relief of condonation of delay in a similar circumstances. The issue of condonation of delay beyond the limited permissible under the statute came up for consideration before the Supreme Court in the case of NV International versus State of Assam. And in the said judgment, the Honorable Supreme Court, though this judgment was under the provisions of the Arbitration Act, has considered whether an authority could condone the delay beyond the permissible period provided under the statute, and the Honorable Supreme Court has disallowed the contention and dismissed the appeal. The Supreme Court observed that once the period is prescribed in the statute itself, allowing any period beyond the said period, authorities does not have a power to entertain the application for condoning the delay. And if so, if that is the situation, then what is the sanctity of having something in the statute itself? It will defeat the statutory purpose itself. So friends, as on today, there is a very flimsy kind of a situation, and in fact sometimes the government itself has come to relief of the taxpayer. There was a notification 53/2023 dated 2nd November 2023. So taxable persons who could not file an appeal against the order passed before 31st March under Section 73 or 74 of the said Act within the time prescribed therein. The taxable persons whose appeal again are taxable persons whose appeals were rejected simply on the ground that said appeals were not filed within the specified time. They were given an amnesty to file such appeal till 31st January 2024 on payment of additional tax amount of 12.5% instead of 10% available under other circumstances. Even the amnesty scheme that was allowed to be for filing of an appeal till 31st January, that is also gone. And as on today, there is no amnesty scheme available, and the discretion of the court is also how effectively you can persuade the High Court to give or not to give a relief. So that is very uncertain as on today. Therefore, the rule regarding the extension of time in GST appeals strike a balance between respecting the procedural deadlines and ensuring that justice is served, and the tax legislature litigator should therefore be familiar with these legal precedents and the underlying principle to effectively argue for extension of time in deserving cases. So unless the case is really serious, and it should be so, and even if it is serious, it should be so effectively presented before the court. So, but at the same time, it is also important to file the appeal on time promptly as the deadline approaches. But in case there has been some inadvertent error and somehow the targets for filing the deadline for filing of the appeal has expired, then one should be able to argue with strong legal justification before the court and try to get a relief. So what are the forms for filing of an appeal? There is a form GST APL 1. It can be filed by the aggrieved person. Then in case the appeal is filed at the direction of the commissioner by the subordinate officer, appeal can be filed in APL 3. And whether it is filed in APL 1 or APL 3, a provisional acknowledgement of the filing of the appeal shall be issued. And now it also depends on whether the appeal should be filed online or it can also be filed physically. And there also section 107 read with rule 107 provide that appeal must be filed electronically and a provisional acknowledgement shall be issued to the appellant immediately. And it can be filed manually in two cases. One is where the commissioner has so notified by way of a notification. or the appeal cannot be filed electronically due to non-availability of the decision or an order to be appealed against on the common portal. In most of the cases, whenever adjudicating authority issues an order, starting from the show cause notice, filing of an online reply, then proceedings of the meeting for the personal hearing, follow-up submission and of if any by the taxable person, all those are filed online, and after consideration of those, the adjudicating authority also upload the order passed by it on the portal. And in case the order is not available on the portal, then it will be difficult for the taxable person to file the reply online. In such cases also, physical reply can be filed. And whenever online replies is filed, then it along with it, the order against which the appeal has been filed, a copy of that should be attached, and that should be physically given to the department. But in practically, when I have been filing the appeal, in most cases, what's happening is even when the order is available, the departments are insisting that a physical copy of the appeal along with the order against which the appeal has been issued should be filed. So in nutshell, what happens is when I file an appeal, even when I file an appeal online, a provisional receipt is generated on the online itself, and I take a printout of all the documents which I have filed along with a copy of the adjudicating order. I have to physically deposit with the department, and on the basis of physical deposition of those documents with the department issues me a order in APL2 specifying the appeal number. So before filing of an appeal online or physically, one has to make a pre-deposit, and it says section 107 again says no appeal shall be filed under subsection 1 unless the appellant has paid in full such part of the amount of tax, interest, fine, fee, penalty arising from the impunged order. Impunged order means order which is subject to question, order against which I am filing an appeal as is admitted by him. Because once the demand has been raised against a taxable person, it is the duty of the taxable person to analyze that demand order and see what part of the tax, interest or penalty is actually payable, that should be paid straight away. And some part of the tax amount he might find that it is questionable or against which he says that I am a aggrieved person, such a tax should not have been raised. A sum equal to 10% of the remaining amount of the tax in dispute arising from the said order, subject to the maximum of 25 crore each for CGST and SGST in relation to which the appeal has been filed. Mark the star here because in the finance bill, which is under consideration of the parliament as on today, this amount of 25 crore is proposed to be reduced to 20 crore after approval of the finance bill and coming into force of the finance bill, signing of the present bill and its notification by the President of India and its notification. Then it will become 20 crore. Otherwise, as on today, it is 25 crore for the CGST, 25 crore for the SGST, and in case it is IGST, then it will be both of them put together will be will be 50 crore. The file appealed under section 129(3) shall be equal to 25% of the penalty. You know that section 29 is exercisable in case there is any violation relating to movement of the goods in transit. And whenever such goods are intercepted, and in case they find that such a movement is taking place in contravention of the provisions of the act or non-payment of the
despite appeal
so,
section
sorry, madam.
167 107.
Pardon? Madam, you are asking something? Did somebody raise a question? Madam, you are asking some question? I thought somebody has asked a question. Priyanka ji, are you listening?
কি ওকে তো শুনতে পাচ্ছি না।
Anybody
ও তো
raised a question?
এ বলছি কোশ্চেন কিছু নেই তো বোধহয়।
Madam, I'm
দেখছি
getting some disturbance. Those who are speaking, could you please mute
না,
yourself?
কোশ্চেন কিছু নেই।
Priyanka ji,
প্রিয়াঙ্কা জি বলো।
Yes, sir.
দাঁড়াও
ये किसी की ना आवाज आ रही है. Could you advise that person, या तो कोई डिपार्टमेंट से है या कोई पार्टिसिपेंट है, they are speaking amongst themselves and it is creating some little disturbance.
Sorry,
In fact,
sir.
somebody is speaking in between and I'm getting disturbed. Initially, I
Okay.
thought that somebody is raising a question, but nobody appeared to be raising a question, but some disturbance is coming. Could you mute others?
Sir, we will look into it. You kindly
Okay.
continue the session.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Initially, I thought that somebody was asking a question, but when I stopped and invited
In the
question.
chat panel, sir.
Okay, chat panel. Are you able
Yes,
to
sir.
see some questions?
Sir, if you see some questions, we will publish it.
Okay, in between you can interrupt. You can ask me in case anybody is asking a question.
No,
Please
sir,
ask.
no such question, much questions as of now. We will publish, sir. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Kindly
And
continue.
once this pre-deposit is made, that is sum equal to 10% of the remaining tax amount or 25% of the penalty under section 129(3) on payment of the above deposit and penalty, the recovery of the remaining amount of demand shall be deemed to have been stayed till such time a final order on this issue is passed by the appellate authority. Now the question will arise. I have already made a 10% of the tax amount or 25% of the penalty under section 129(3). There can be two situations where finally the appeal is decided in my favor. In such cases, whatever pre-deposit I have made, I will get a repayment, I will get a refund of it along with interest under section 56 of the CGST Act. And in case I lose the appeal, in case the order is passed against me, that whatever pre-deposit I have made, that will be adjusted towards my tax demand as may arise after passing of the appellate order. Okay. Now, what is the procedure to be adopted by the appellate authority? The appellate authority shall give an opportunity to the appellant of being heard. That means they will be physically be made present and present their case. And opportunity will also be given to the respondent against whom the appeal has been filed. And if the sufficient cause is shown at any stage of hearing of an appeal, that is the duty of the appellate authority to grant time to the parties or any of them and adjourn the hearing of the appeal. Because whenever the decision is being taken at the spur of the moment, the two parties, that is the appellant and the respondent, may not have all the documents available with them. They may say, okay, my lord, sir, I will submit these documents on my next hearing. Kindly adjourn the case. So appellate authority can adjourn the case whenever sufficient cause is shown to them. But no such adjournment shall be given to any one party, whether appellant or the respondent, more than 3 times. So maximum one can seek adjournment is 3 times, but beyond that, no adjournment shall be allowed. So appellate authorities power to allow addition to the grounds of the appeal. Many times we find that at the time of writing of appeal, all the arguments have not been given or some important point has been missed out. Can I add the grounds of appeal? Grounds of appeal means this is the justification in support of my appeal. So they are called grounds of appeal. If at the time of writing of the appeal application, I have missed out writing anything, can I add to these points? Say the appellate authority may, at any time of hearing of the appeal, allow appellant to add any ground of appeal not specified in the ground of appeal initially filed. But that can be done only if the appellate authority is satisfied that omission of such inclusion of the ground has been inadvertent and it is not a willful or unreasonable. So many times it as a matter of strategy also one could try not to give all the arguments in one go, because if he gives all the arguments in one go, the opposite party will get to know of it and they may put a forceful reply. But you cannot adopt the addition on the grounds of appeal as a matter of playing of a trick on the department. So such additional ground can be allowed only when the appellate authority is satisfied that the omission of such ground from the grounds of appeal was not willful or unreasonable. So a reasonable and unintentional points, if it was missed out, they can be included as a ground of appeal subsequently on the permission of the appellate authority. Then what can the appellate authority do? Once the appeal has been filed with the appellate authority, it has been argued before the appellate authority, maybe departmental representative has also appeared before the appellate authority. After consideration of all the facts and provisions of the law before it, the appellate authority has a power to confirm that whatever adjudication order was issued is okay and it does not need any intervention or a correction, or it may modify or annul. Modify means partially change the adjudication order, either maybe in favor of the taxpayer, or annul the order or completely reject the order of the adjudicating authority. So the appellate authority, after making such further inquiry as may be necessary, pass such order as he thinks just and proper, confirming, modifying, or annulling the decision or a order appealed against, but shall not refer the case back to the adjudicating authority that passed the order. Prior to coming into force of the GST, under various state VAT laws, the appellate authority got a power to pass certain order and redirect the adjudicating officer to reprocess the case. But such a thing is now not available under the GST. Here, the appellate authority has to confirm, modify, or annul the order or a decision. And whenever he modifies, he will modify the demand also and finally decide the case and not refer it back to the officer who initially adjudicated upon the order. An order, but can appropriate authority, so can the appellate authority also increase the demand or reduce the input tax credit? Yes, that can also be possible. But any order enhancing the fee, penalty, or fine in lieu of confiscation, or confiscating goods of a greater value, or reducing the amount of ITC shall not be passed unless the appellant has been given a reasonable opportunity of showing cause against the proposed order. Which means in case the appellate authority get across that the demand raised by the adjudicating officer is much less and certain aspects of the business of the taxpayer has not been looked into, and he may proceed to increase the demand. And before he increases the demand, before he passes an order for increasing of a demand, two things will have to be done. One is the person, the appellant will have to be given a fresh show cause notice that, gentlemen, apart from these demands, there are some other demands are also pending as to why these demands should not be recovered from him. So for that, reply will be sought and justification will be, he will be given a reasonable opportunity of being heard, and thereafter order will be passed. Second condition to be fulfilled here is that a revised order by the appellate authority enhancing the demand must be passed within the time which is prescribed under section 73 or 74. That is within a period of 3 years in the case of there is a short payment of tax, non-payment of tax without involving any fraud, willful misstatement or suppression of fact, and within a period of 5 years from the due date of filing of an annual return in case the non-payment of tax, short payment of tax, excess claim of ITC is because of any fraud, willful misstatement, or suppression of fact. So whenever an appellate authority passes an order, such an order must be in writing and shall state the point for determination. What are the issue involved? What has led to the difference between the taxpayer and the which who is aggrieved person and adjudicating officer? He will determine what are the points involved, and then he will give a decision thereon, giving reasons for such decision. That means he should give a speaking or a logical or a convincing order, and it should be convincing or a self-speaking order. And as far as possible, it is the duty of the appellate authority to pass such order within a period of 12 months from the date of the filing of an appeal. So communication of the order, once the appellate authority has passed an order, it is duty to pass a written order to the appellant. Of course, he will be interested that what has been the fate of his appeal, to the respondent, the department against whom, or the departmental official against whom the order has been passed, and to the adjudicating authority, the officer who has adjudicated upon this issue. And it is the duty of the appellate authority also to convey, send a copy of the appellate order, a copy of the order on appeal to the jurisdictional commissioner of the central, state, or the union territory. So they should also be concerned with this. They should also be given a copy of that order. Binding nature of this order under section 117 and 107(16), it says every order passed under section 107 shall, subject to the provisions of section 108, 13, 17, and 18, be final and binding on the party. Because section 108 gives a power to the revisional authority, and this power of the revisional authority also extends over the power of the appellate authority, which means authority has passed an order, and thereafter the revisional authority proposes to initiate any action, then to that extent the order of the appellate authority will stand withheld, or will remain in abeyance. But if any of the party, whether the department or the taxable person, has gone in appeal before the appellate tribunal, then also the order of the appellate authority will not take effect. Like that, under section 117, appeal can be filed before the High Court, and 118, appeal can be filed before the Supreme Court. So every order passed under this section shall, subject to these 4 provisions, be final and binding. That means an order has been passed by the appellate authority that has not been questioned by the revisionary authority, and neither party, that is either the department or the taxable person, has gone in for appeal before the appellate tribunal or to the High Court or the Supreme Court. In such cases, the order passed by the appellate authority shall be final and shall be enforceable and binding on both the parties. Power of the revisionary authority. So second step, before I take up this second step, I would like to halt for a moment, because we have already spent about an hour. In case any of you have any question, please feel free to ask me. Anybody has any question up till now? Am I audible? Dear participants, मेरी आवाज आ रही है आपको? Priyanka ji, are the participant empowered to speak and ask question? Okay, let me carry on. Next is the power of the revisionary authority, revisional authority. What is a revision? Revision under the tax law means examining again. Examining again for the purpose of removing any defect against irregular or improper exercises or non-exercise of any jurisdiction. In case some senior officer feel that a particular person subordinate to him has not exercised his jurisdiction properly, or has wrongly exercised his jurisdiction, So he can call for the proceedings of that particular case and pass a fresh order or a direction as to how things should be taken. Under the CGST Act, the revisionary authority can also take up any action suo moto, that is of his own accord or on a reference by the state or the union territory authority. And he can take up this case for revision under section 108. What does the under section 108 say? Section 108 says that the revisionary authority may examine the record of any proceedings, and if he considers that any decision or an order passed by any officer subordinate to him is erroneous, that means is legally incorrect, insofar as it is prejudicial to the interest of the revenue, that means it is against the interest of the revenue, and is illegal or improper or has not taken into account certain material facts, then what can the revisionary authority do? Revisional authority can, if necessary, stay the operation of such decision or an order for such period as he deems fit. That means he can first of all stay the operation of that order and start passing a fresh order instead in place of that. So after giving and such a stay of operation of the order already passed, adjudication order or a order passed by the first level appellate authority, then after giving a person concerned an opportunity of being heard and after making such further inquiry as may be necessary, pass such order as he thinks just and proper, including enhancing or modifying or annulling of the said decision or an order. That means he can enhance the tax liability, or he can modify the initial order, or he can pass a rejection of the original order. Revision, but there are certain exceptions to the rule. There are certain limitation on the powers of the revisionary authority. The revisional authority shall not exercise any power under subsection 1 if the order has been subject to an appeal under section 107 or 112, 117 or 118. This is the hierarchy of appeal which I mentioned to you in one of the earlier slides. Section 107 provides for appeal to the appellate authority. Here may be a situation where an order has been passed by the adjudicating authority and one of the party has already gone for appeal with the appellate authority. In such cases, revisional authority shall not exercise his jurisdiction under section 108. Like that, if one of the party has gone in appeal before the appellate tribunal under section 112, then also revisional authority shall not exercise his power under section 108. Like that, some party might have gone to High Court or a Supreme Court. In such cases also, revisional authority shall not exercise his power. Or a period specified under subsection 2 of section 107 has not yet expired. Under section 102, the appeal can be filed by the aggrieved person within a period of 3 months and by the department within a period of six months. Who knows that some of them may go in for an appeal. If that period has not passed, then also during that period, in intervening period, the revisional authority shall not exercise his power under section 108. Or more than 3 years have expired after the passing of a decision or an order sought to be revised. So more than 3 years have not passed, or more than 3 years have expired after the passing. If the more than 3 years have passed, then also no revisional action shall be taken. The order has already been taken up for revision under this section at an earlier stage, maybe a year ago. Revisional order on such an issue was already taken up, or the order has been passed in the exercise of the power under subsection 1. Because first thing is the fourth bullet is relating to where order has been taken up for revision, but final order has not been final order on revision has not been passed. And the fifth bullet will be where the issue was taken up for revision, for passing of a revisional order, and the order was also passed. In such cases also, there is no point in repeatedly passing a revision order by the revisional authority. So section 108(2) provides again limitation on the power of the revisional, provided that revisional authority may pass an order under subsection 1 on any point which has not been raised or decided in an appeal before an appellator. Say in case there is a new point which comes to the notice of the revisional authority and that has not been considered by the appellate authority, then this power of revision can be exercised. Or the expiry of the period of 3 years referred to in clause B of that subsection, then also it's such a power can, whichever is later, this power can be exercised. Every order passed in revision under subsection 1 shall, subject to the provisions of section 113, that is appeal to the appellate tribunal, 117 appeal to the High Court, or section 118, that is appeal to the Supreme Court, shall be final. Just as order of the adjudicating authority is final unless it is appealed against or it is taken up for revision. Like that, order of the first level appellate authority is final unless it is appealed before the appellate tribunal or taken up under revision. Like that, order of a revisional authority is also final unless it is taken up for appeal before the appellate tribunal or before the High Court or before the Supreme Court. So what is the procedure by the revisional authority? Where the revisional authority decides to pass an order in revision under section 108, which is likely to affect the person adversely, the revisional authority shall serve on the taxable person a notice in form GSTR RVN 1 and shall give him a reasonable opportunity of being heard. He will call for his explanation, ask him to make a personal appearance and say whatever he want to say in his support, and therefore after giving him an opportunity of being heard, revisional authority shall, along with its order under subsection 1 of this section, issue a summary of the order in GST APL 04, clearly indicating the final amount of the demand as is confirmed by the revisional authority. Now, appeal to the appellate tribunal. Before I take a second level appeal under the GST law goes to the appeal to the appellate tribunal. As you know, that despite the fact that nearly more than 7 years have passed and the GST tribunal, which is provided for under the law, has still not started functioning, but is shortly likely to start functioning. So it will be therefore useful that we know about the provisions of the appellate tribunal right away. So section 109 provides for constitution of the appellate tribunal and its benches, then president, member of the appellate tribunal and their qualifications, etc. Procedure for appellate tribunal, appeal to the appellate tribunal, then orders of the appellate tribunal, then financial and administrative powers of the president of the appellate tribunal, interest on refund of amount paid for admission of the appeals, etc. That pre-deposit I was telling you, appearance by the authorized who can appear before the appellate tribunal. So let me start with section 109, which provides for composition of the appellate tribunal and its benches. It says the government shall, on the recommendation of the GST Council, by notification, establish an appellate tribunal known as GST Appellate Tribunal. And what is the purpose of the GST Appellate Tribunal? For hearing appeals against the order passed by the appellate authority or order passed by the revisional authority. So both these authorities are in a way feeder to the appellate tribunal. Whatever order are passed by the first level appellate authority, that could be commissioner appeals or joint commissioner appeal, or it could be a commissioner who has been vested the power of the revisional authority. Their judgment or the order will go for appellate before the appellate tribunal. The jurisdiction, powers and authority conferred on the appellate tribunal shall be exercised by the principal bench and the state benches constituted under subsection 3 and subsection 4. So I will take up with you what are the issues which can be decided by the principal bench, which has its office in Delhi, and state benches which are located all over the country, mostly in the state capital and some other places also. Okay, then government to constitute a principal bench of the appellate tribunal at Delhi, which shall consist of a president, a judicial member, and a technical member center and a technical member state. So president will be the judicial member. There will be one more judicial member and a technical member state and technical member center. Minimum 4 persons will be there in the principal bench. So on the request of the state, the government may constitute such number of state benches at such places and with such jurisdiction as may be recommended by the GST Council, and which shall consist of 2 judicial members, a technical member state and a technical member center. That means there will be again state tribunal also will have 4 members, 2 judicial members, 1 technical member center and 1 technical member state. Jurisdiction of the principal and state benches of the appellate tribunal. The principal bench of the appellate tribunal and the state bench shall hear appeals against the order passed by appellate authority and revisional authority. So I have already mentioned about this in an earlier slide. In the case in which one of the issue involved relates to the place of supply, shall be heard only by the principal bench. Because the issue arises in case there is a state bank of say Rajasthan and a state bench of say Gujarat or Haryana, and there is an issue involved in place of supply. So it may be difficult to decide by either the state bench of Haryana or state bench of Gujarat or Rajasthan and Gujarat. So whenever one of the issue involve the place of supply, such issue shall be decided only will be heard and decided only by the principal bench, which has its office principal place of business, principal place in Delhi. The president of the appellate tribunal shall from time to time by general or a special order distribute the business of the appellate tribunal among the benches and may transfer the cases from one bench to another. So he is in a way administrative head of the entire tribunal process, president. A person shall not be, what is the qualification of the appellate tribunal of the president and the other members of the appellate tribunal? A person shall not be qualified for appointment as a president unless he has been a judge of a Supreme Court or is or has been Chief Justice of a High Court. So president will be very senior person. Either he has been a judge of a Supreme Court or is or has been a Chief Justice of a High Court, though he will be the president of the appellate tribunal. What are the qualifications of the judicial member? A judicial member, unless he has been a judge of a high court or has for a combined period of 10 years being a district judge or an additional district judge, or has been an advocate for 10 years, for a minimum of 10 years, with a substantial experience in litigation in matters relating to indirect taxes in the appellate tribunal, custom, excise and service tax, appellate tribunal, state value added tax tribunal, or by whatever name called High Court or the Supreme Court. So there are 3 feeder cadres into the judicial membership. That is, he should either be a judge of a high court or he should have for a minimum period of 10 years been a district judge or additional judge, or he has been an advocate with this kind of an experience, so they can aspire to become judicial member. Like that, there are qualifications for technical member central and technical member states have been prescribed, and mostly in the case of a technical member center, he should be either belonging to central civil services or central services involving CBIC, central excise, GST, etc. Or technical member state, he should belong to the state civil services having certain kind of an experience and certain level of working and minimum experience of a particular level. So those kind of qualifications have been prescribed. And the selection to these persons shall also be done through the process of a search and selection committee prescribed for appointment of these persons. So procedure before the appellate tribunal. The appellate tribunal shall not, while disposing of any proceeding before it or appeal before it, be bound by the procedure laid down by the Code of Civil Procedure. Code of Civil Procedure, laid down the procedure for starting of the judicial process in the civil code, but and it is a slightly technical kind of a mechanism for in the decision making process, and the appellate tribunal is not bound by the provisions of the Code of Civil Procedure, but is only guided by the principles of natural justice and subject to other provisions of the Act and rule made thereunder. And appellate tribunal has the power to regulate its own procedure. So it can also bring out its own manual as to how the appeal shall be filed, whether online or offline, how the appearances shall be made, how many copies, what document shall be attached, what will be the mechanism for seeking response of the defendant. So cross submission of the arguments. So all those procedure can be laid down by the appellate tribunal itself. The appellate tribunal shall, for the purpose of discharging its functions under this act, have the same powers as are vested in the civil court under the Code of Civil Procedure 1908, while trying a suit in respect of the following matters, such as summoning and enforcing the attendance of any person and examining him on oath. If an appeal has been filed against somebody, so the appellate tribunal can direct the respondent to make a appearance before itself, requiring the discovery and production of document. These are the standard powers of any civil code for the purpose in order to facilitate them in the adjudication process. Then receiving evidence on affidavit. So the appellate tribunal can direct the people to submit whatever statement they want to make along with the affidavit, affirming the correctness and truthfulness of the facts submitted by him. Subject to the provisions of Section 123 and 124 of the Indian Evidence Act, requisitioning any public record or documents or a copy of such record or a document from any office. The government records can be requisition, issuing commissions for examination of the witness or document. They can appoint any person to conduct a on-the-spot study and submit a report on the issues which are useful for adjudication by the decision of resolving of an appeal by the appellate tribunal, dismissing a representation for default or deciding it ex parte. Okay, friend, execution of the orders of the appellate tribunal. Any order made by the appellate tribunal may be enforced by it in the same manner as if it were a decree made by the court in a suit, and it can send for execution of its order to the court within the local jurisdiction of which, where if it is a company against whom the order has been passed, in case of an order against the company, the registered office of the company is situated, or in case of an order against any other person, the person concerned voluntarily resides or is carry on business. So once the order is passed by the appellate authority, it can send to the collector of the district in case of a company where the location of the company, registered office of the company is situated, in any other case where the person voluntarily resides or carries on business. Appeal to the appellate authority. Procedure for appeal. Any person aggrieved by the order passed against him under Section 107, that is by the first level appellate authority, or Section 108, that is revisional authority, may appeal to the appellate tribunal within a period of 3 months from the date on which the order sought to have been appealed against is communicated to such person who is preferring an appeal. And the appellate tribunal has got a power to condone the delay up to a maximum period of 3 months. That means 3 plus 3 months. 3 months is the original time given, and on a reasonable cause shown to him, the appellate tribunal can grant an extension of time or waive the delay or condone the delay for a 3 months. And appellate tribunal may, in its discretion, refuse to admit any such appeal where a tax or input tax credit involved, or the difference of the tax and input tax credit involved, or the amount of fine, fee, penalty determined in such order does not exceed 50,000 rupees. So according to the appellate tribunal perception, 50,000 rupees may be too small an amount for which the valuable time of the tribunal should be wasted. So it may even not refuse to entertain such appeal. So whenever the commissioner can also direct filing of an appeal. If a decision has been made or the appeal has been decided by the appellate authority or by the revisional authority, within 6 months of the receipt of the order, appeal can be filed on behalf of the commissioner on behalf of the department. That means the commissioner can give a direction to any of its officer to file an appeal before the appellate tribunal, and while passing such order, commissioner may also give some guidance to the officer who is directed to file an appeal. And the power of the appellate tribunal to condone the delay, I have already said. So what is the amount of pre-deposit in the case of a appeal before the appellate tribunal? So that appellant must pay in full such part of the amount of tax, interest, fine, fee, penalty arising from the impugned order, that means order in question as is admitted by him. So whatever is admitted by the appellant, that should first be paid, and a sum equal to 20% of the remaining amount of tax in dispute, in addition to the amount of 10% which had already been paid arising from the said order, subject to the maximum of 50 crore rupees in relation to which the appeal has been filed. So that amount should be paid. That is 50 crore of CGST, 50 crore of SGST should be paid. Again, in the Finance Bill 2024, there is a provision to reduce this amount from pre-deposit from 20% to 10%, and the maximum depositable amount from 50 crore to 40 crore each. So 40 crore plus 40 crore. As and when this particular Finance Act 2024 come into force, so this 20% will get to reduce to 10%, and the maximum 50 crore will get reduced to 40 crore. Procedure for filing of an appeal to the appellate tribunal can be filed either electronically or otherwise, as may be notified by the registrar of the appellate tribunal, and appeal can be filed in the form GST APL 05 on the common portal. And whenever such appeal is filed, a provisional acknowledgement shall be issued to the appellant immediately, and a memorandum of cross objection to the appellate tribunal under subsection 5 of section 112 shall be filed either electronically or otherwise within a period with the registrar within a period of 45 days in a form called APL 06, and the appeal and the memorandum of cross objection shall be signed in a manner provided in Rule 26. I hope you are aware about the Rule 26. Rule 26 provides for how the documents shall be signed and whom such documents shall be signed. That means there should be either a digital signature or there should be confirmation on the document as per the provisions of the Information Technology Act. That is there should be a electronic verification code system for verification of the appeal. Then who should file an appeal? So that this rule of 26 also provide for who should file an appeal. In case of an individual proprietor, the appeal shall be filed by the individual proprietor. In case of a partnership, it shall be signed by the one of the partner. In case of a body of association or group of individuals, it shall be filed by the authorized person. So that kind of a thing you have to keep in mind. In case of a company, it shall be filed by the managing director or manager as may be authorized by the board of directors. A certified copy of the decision or order appealed against along with the fee as specified in Subrule 5 shall be submitted to the registrar within 7 days of the filing of an appeal, and the final acknowledgement indicating the appeal number shall be issued thereafter in Form GST APL 02 in the same manner as it is issued by the first level appellate authority. Where certified copy of the decision and order is submitted within 7 days, appeal shall be deemed to have been filed on the date when the provisional acknowledgement was issued, and in case such copy, certified copy of the order is filed after 7 days, then the appeal shall be deemed to have been filed on the date when such certified copy of the order has been filed. Normally, whether the production of additional evidence before the appellate tribunal or appellate authority or appellate tribunal is allowed, normally not allowed, except in the following circumstances, where the adjudicating authority or appellate authority has refused to admit any evidence which ought to have been submitted to the adjudicating authority, and where the appellant was prevented by sufficient cause from producing any evidence which he was called upon to submit. So then additional evidence may be allowed. Like that, where the appellant was prevented by sufficient cause from producing before any evidence which was relevant, so there could be some reason which he may give that he could not submit these documents before or that argument before, or where the adjudicating authority or the appellate authority has made an order appealed against without giving sufficient opportunity to the appellant to adduce any evidence, then also additional documents can be considered. Okay. Issue worth considering in the appeal are all procedural and other issues such as propriety of the SCN, document identification number, whether it was given or not, whether the signed document has been signed by the proper officer, jurisdiction of the person issuing the SCN, or and of the adjudicating officer passing the order, whether the order passed is within the scope of the SCN or the adjudicating authority has traveled beyond the allegation level in the SCN, mode of the service of the SCN, whether it was as per provided under the GST law, limitation period within which order ought to have been passed, whether such order has been passed within. So these are some of the grounds on which you can question either the SCN or the first level adjudicating order or the first level appeal. So these you have to keep in mind, whether the opportunity of being heard has been provided. So next is a very small topic, appeal to the High Courts. Any person who is aggrieved by the order passed by the state benches of the appellate tribunal may file an appeal to the High Court, and the High Court may admit such appeal if it is satisfied that the question, the issue or the case involved any substantial question of law. Appeal shall be filed within a period of 180 days from the date on which the order appealed against has been received by the aggrieved person, and it shall be in such form, that is APL 0 GST APL 08, verified in such manner as are provided in section Rule 26, and the High Court may entertain the appeal even after expiry of the said period if it is satisfied that yes, madam, in just 2 minutes I am closing. Okay. The High Court may entertain the appeal after expiry of the said period if it is satisfied that there was a sufficient cause for not filing it. Where the High Court is satisfied that substantial question of law is involved on any, it shall formulate that substantial question of law and give a decision on that. But this issue does not limit the power of the High Court. High Court can even decide on the issue which was not initially framed as a substantial question of law. The High Court may determine any issue which has not been determined by the state benches or has been wrongly determined by the state benches or by reason of any decision or a question of law hearing. Where an appeal has been filed before the High Court, it shall be heard by a bench normally of not less than 2 judges, and it shall be decided in accordance with the opinions of such judges by majority of the judges. Appeal to the Supreme Court. An appeal shall lie to the Supreme Court from the order passed by the principal bench of the appellate tribunal or from the judgment or order of the High Court in appeal made under section 117 in case of its own motion or on an application made to it on this behalf by the aggrieved party, provided High Court submit a certificate that such a case is fit for consideration by the Supreme Court. So the procedure of Code of Civil Procedure shall apply in relation to passing of a decision by the Supreme Court, and as you all know, decision of the Supreme Court is binding on all the courts in India and on all the party. Last slide on this issue is non-appellate order. Orders, there are certain orders against which the appeal can not be filed. These are 4 orders: order on transfer of proceeding from one officer to another, order pertaining to seizure or retention of the books of account, order sanctioning prosecution under the Act, and order passed under Section 80, that is order on payment of tax by installment. Last point on this is rectification of the error apparent from the record. Any authority who has passed or issued any decision or an order or a notice or a certificate may rectify any error which is apparent on the face of the record in such decision or an order or a certificate or a motion. And where such error is, and when can they pass it? When such a error has come to their own notice by themselves, or such error has been brought to their notice by the authorities of the state or authorities of the union territory or by the affected person himself. And no such rectification shall be done after a period of 6 months from the date of issue of such decision or an order. And that's all. Non-appellate order I have articled. With this, friends, I complete my presentation on the appeals. And before I close, I would like to ask you whether you have any question on this. Whether anybody has any question? Can I stop sharing my screen?
The one question is we have is like
Yes.
hold on. There is any time schedule is there to answer to defective notices?
Defective notices. Notices of what kind? Means notices of SCN.
Yes, sir.
The SCN itself will provide that reply should be furnished within such and such time. Normally, whenever an SCN is issued, that the reply has to be furnished within a period of 30 days. And even if the taxpayer finds that notice is defective, still he should give a reply within 30 days, pointing out as to what is the defect in that particular notice. Okay. Any other?
Sir. No, sir.
Any other question?
Sir, is it possible that a writ petition can be filed directly at the High Court to
It can be filed. It can be filed, but whether it will be entertained by the High Court or not, normally it will not be entertained wherever the appropriate effective remedy is available under the particular law itself. You can file it only under the circumstances where you find there is a opportunity of being heard is not given. The authority which has passed an order has exceeded its jurisdiction. There is a question, there is a challenge to the law itself under which the order or the show cause notice has been issued. Then the court will be very much willing to give relief. Otherwise, they will not.
Okay, sir. No more questions, please.
Okay, friends, with this, I would like to wish you all a great luck in your appellate journey in the GST law. I would once again like to thank the Tax Research Department's team for giving me an opportunity of being with you this afternoon and share my views on appeals and revision. And in case you have any question, my PPT I will try to share with the tax research department, and feel free to call on in case you have any difficulty. Thank you very much and good luck. With this, I am